Good evening, welcome to tonight's Monday Live, joined by one of our fitters, Tom Field, who's very kindly coming on his day off to join me on the live, so thank you very much indeed.
Welcome. You're welcome.
Proper commitment, that. So what would you normally be doing at this time, other than watching this, of course? What would your Mondays normally be?
Recently, Monday's just been working, so just in the nights, it's just doing calls and a couple bits like that.
So Tom does some psychology as well. What was your qualification?
Bachelor's, master's degree, through the CPG, so Confederation of Professional Golf, and then through the IMGCA, so the International Mental Game Coaching Association.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah, I know.
But I think the mental game is something which is, I think for a lot of us, a lot of golfers out there, it's the kind of thing we kind of like to stay away from a little bit through not understanding enough about, I think the worry is you end up on a couch telling someone about your unhappy childhood. Yeah.
So it's not like that. So as in, what you tend to find is there's more the counselling side of things, and then there's more the psychology side. Yeah. So what I do is more performance-based. If you're looking more counselling, that's more feelings, and I don't tend to mess around with that too much.
Got it. So there you go. So any of these, Tom fits with us a few days a week, but is going to be, he's already taking on some clients from a psychology point of view. So any interest in that, let us know. We'll pass details on to Tom.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
So Akshay Bhatia doesn't really need much help, does he?
He's been pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah. Last couple of weeks, he's been on some form, and then obviously back nine on Sunday. I mean, what was it? Four birdies on the trot and an eagle. So it's he knows what he's doing.
And it was not a long. I mean, he held a lot of putts. There was a putt on, I think, was it 11? There was a kind of 50-foot swirling thing that I think even his playing partner laughed at. But yeah, he got the putter rolling. But that eagle was a 4 or 5 footer. Yeah. And I think that's what I like about Bay Hill. I think the greens are at 13, so they're starting to get them ramped up to be kind of major championship style. It's always a tough test. But I always think it's a course that really rewards good play. Yeah,
100%. And I didn't see an absolute ton of the golf, but watching a little bit on Saturday, just seeing a couple of the players just out of position with those greens. If you're off, good luck. Good luck doing that.
Yeah, and it was fun. Bit of wind in there made it a bit more interesting. Greens firming up. I mean, they've had drought conditions in Florida recently, so it's not been necessarily hot, but very, very dry. But definitely what the players will want to get used to for this week at the Players, and then obviously the majors coming up. A little bit of fun. James and I, 12 years ago, met Mr. Palmer at Bay Hill, and people say don't meet your heroes. Absolutely do meet your heroes. He was unbelievable. He's such a nice man, and awesome to have met him when he was still well. So nice cheeky little story there.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, it was good. It was good, and he absolutely ripped me for hitting in the water on the last.
Too right.
Yeah, quite right as well. Europe, Dan Bradbury. I mean, so it was. I can remember his first name. Is it Casey Jarvis? Callum Jarvis? Casey. South African chap, nearly got 3 on the bounce, missed by 1. I should know, considering he's won so many recently. I think it's interesting with this that there's a real kind of group of South African players that seem to be pushing one another to get better. And obviously it's down in South Africa, so familiar with the conditions at Houghton in Joburg this last week. But great to see a Brit get over the line.
Yeah, and especially with all the players coming from South Africa, almost seems like they're just pushing each other on, just edging each other a little bit, which just makes them just that bit more competitive. So nothing like a bit of home competition.
So Players this week, who do you fancy?
If Rory's bat sorts himself out, he's got to be up there. Obird's been doing well recently. Obviously,
he's one off. Yeah,
he's got the ball striking and the sort of game for that style, of course. Bhatia, can't rule them out.
Yeah. Morikawa finished 5th, 6th.
Yeah, definitely Morikawa. So
it's not necessarily the Bombers course, is it? It's they always say, I mean, for them 7,000 odd yards, it's a strategic course, whereas for us it's a Bombers course. But actually, that course is. You don't really see a trend of player style winning round there, other than just who's playing well that week. You've had from Fred Funk, who couldn't hit out of shadow, to Rory winning there. So it's literally kind of anyone who's on form. Yeah,
100%. And obviously 17 always massively comes into it. It's who can hold their nerves when it comes to those last couple of holes. Yeah, I mean, it's nice with courses like that where it's not just a particular trend. So it's like I said, shorter guys can win it. You can get the absolute bombers that take advantage, but it's sort of anyone's game. Yeah,
and playoff Rory and JJ Spawn last year, so against the 2 different styles of player completely. But I think there seem to be quite a few players coming into form. Rosie's been playing well all year. Tommy's sort of bubbling away underneath. Obviously, Shane's had his was failing last week, but actually there are a lot of players that are there or thereabouts, so they're all coming into form at the right time.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see Shane do well after the other week. Obviously, a bit of a blow up. I saw this thing online about how he wanted to really win Fitzgerald, and then it was just almost that moment was he ended up thinking about too much about that, and then ended up just sort of coming away from what he was trying to do. So watching him win a big one, seeing him out there at the Masters would be lovely too.
Yeah. Right. Insights from this week. Let's get on to the questions. Thank you for all the questions that have already come through. So let's see if we can get through them all tonight.
Okay, so first
We've
one.
prepped this first one. So
Simon, any chance you could demo 3 different size grips, mid jumbo and super jumbo, either on an iron or a driver? Thanks.
So going to put them on an iron head. So size, we've got a mid-size jumbo, and then we've got the Jumbo Max in the medium, which is much, much bigger than the standard jumbo. So to look at the butt diameters here, we've got, as you look at it from left to right, mid-size jumbo and then the super jumbo sizing. So actually quite a progression in size. If I put standard size up alongside that as well, hold that onto the top, you can see how the standard size much, much smaller in diameter. So I play a standard size with, depending on the grip, 2 or 3 extra tapes underneath. So I play a little bit bigger. But I tend to use my fingers, use my hands to square the club up a little bit through the swing. Always get a little bit of kind of lag and whip through my hands. So the general trend for me is, as I go, I can generally deal with the mid-size, but as I go bigger than that, then I struggle to get the face squared up. So see what happens this time. So mid-size I can normally make work. And I think it's one of those ones where for me with grip size, the more someone is kind of body rotation and quieter arms, that's then when the bigger sizes can start to work, because you're not using your hands to square the face. So take someone like Bryson, he's got massive grips, but he's got a very kind of body-oriented, kind of big rotation-based swing. So he's not got the hand squaring it, whereas someone like Rory has that kind of that release pattern through. Take someone like Charlie Hull as well, kind of you get that kind of crossover there. That's then when the bigger grip could, in principle, could restrict hand action. So you start off with the mid-size here. Yeah, I can still, ultimately for a mid-size, for me, I still feel like I can get through the ball pretty comfortably. And ultimately versus the size I play, it's not that much bigger. Doesn't feel particularly restrictive. I think it would be more if I had, say, some joint issues or some tendon issues, wanted to reduce vibration, then slightly bigger grip, just reducing grip tension, that could potentially work. Although not quite bottoming out the way I would normally, but it doesn't feel like it gets in the way of making the swing. If I take it up to the jump, the other element on this is grip weight. For most grips, as you go bigger, you're going to go heavier. So that will have an effect on the way the club swings, swing weight. You're reducing swing weight by counterbalancing. So that can help some players, but it can certainly hinder some as well. So go up to standard tall velvet jumbo. The mid-size is a 57 gram grip. The jumbo is a 64, 65 gram grip. So this now starts to feel like just starting to struggle to get that little finger around the top of the grip, which not too bad in the bottom hand, but I just feel like I've got to hold on a little tighter with my top hand grip.
Would you say your strike changes much when you go up in grip size, or is it more just squaring up the face?
More face control, yeah. So we can see immediately there, path stays neutral, but I don't get that face around.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try. I'm not going to try and do anything in particular, but I just find I've got to hold on a bit tighter with that top hand. So it gets there for me. So both of those, path 0.5, 0.6 of a degree, but face a good few degrees open.
This one will be interesting. This will be interesting.
So it's not overly heavy. So that's why I've gone to the Jumbo Max, because I didn't want to go to something that's just going to massively influence swing weight. But this is very much in the palm. I've got to move this, because I can't get that finger round to clamp that in, otherwise it's just going to slip out otherwise. So I've got to get it more into the palm of my hand to get a bit of security. So it feels very different in the hands. Yeah. So path's been affected a little bit. Face has been affected a little bit. If I give it one more here. Yeah, so I just, again, path neutral, face 6 degrees open. Now, if I were to make a swing to make this work, it's going to be much more of a body turn through. So if I'm trying to make this work, then I've got to really clear my left side out of the way hard. And even then it's more of a fade. I still don't square the face up to path. So you could argue it takes out the left side of the fairway, but it also restricts my ability to play shots. So for me, going bigger loses me a bit of fluidity, a bit of timing, a bit of control. For other players, it's going to do the opposite. So if you struggle with potentially as a right-hander with a left miss, you struggle with overactive hands. The problem is that can come from several routes. It can come from a technique, but it can come from the clubs get heavy and you've got to play catch up. That can create a flip as well. So it's something that dynamically, if you test them, you're going to find the size that feels most comfortable but dials in strike and dials in face control. But there isn't necessarily if you hit this shot, use this grip kind of connection. But it can make quite a big difference to how you can deliver the face.
Good effort on that last shot. Didn't look like your normal move, but good effort with those grips. Right, next question. Hi Simon, thanks for being on as always. A couple fitting questions, if I may. What do you expect for launch and spin if you turn a 10 degree down to 9 versus a natural 9 degree at static loft?
So I'd expect to see spin about 200 to 400 revs higher.
A bit of a centre of gravity shift as well.
So you've got, if you're turning loft down, you're actually raising centre of gravity, whereas if you're using the lower loft, the CG stays lower, so it actually gears more spin off at the lower loft. Versus turning a higher loft down, it actually keeps spin on. So, but you're going to open the face a hair as well. I would say, did this with someone earlier on, from a 10 degree to a 9 degree, it took 400 to 500 revs of spin off. The 10 degree turned down 1 degree took 200 to 300 revs of spin off. So it doesn't match, but it doesn't move the spin as far as doing it with a complete loft change in the head.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. And then second part to the question, which 5-wood head impressed you the most for spin and launch stability out the new releases or the current generation stock?
So
a few good ones.
So I guess it depends what you mean by spin launch stability. I think from a launch point of view, the head that picks it up the best, I still think G440 is the best for that.
Not overly high on spin though.
No, not a massively spinny head, but picks it up. Great if you've got a shallower delivery. If you're someone who traps it, then the TaylorMade's great. Yeah.
I say GT1 as well, if you want someone that really pops it up, trips a bit of launch and a bit of spin on there. I generally say that would probably be the highest spin out of everything that I've seen out there right now. But launch-wise, I mean, Ping's absolutely on that.
Yeah. And to be fair, the Callaway is very good as well if you're looking for something that feels a bit more solid, but again, quite a punchy flight out of that too. The Ping and the Callaway, because they're a shallower head, for me, would be the ones if you're trying to get more initial launch. Those are great heads, but the Callaway will take more spin off.
Yeah. Hi Simon, had a full bag fitting with Jasper on Saturday morning. As per usual, top class.
He's
Jasper was superb.
He did actually write that as well. You're all good.
Yeah, should have avoided that one. Evening gents, can you please hit the U505 and Mizuno Fly High 4 irons in a Ventus red or blue 8 stiff? Interested in which is most forgiving and easiest to hit from the turf, has the best feel, best distance, etc.
Okay, I'll grab those and you do the next one from Oz.
Sounds good. So, good evening. My 11-year-old son plays competitive golf. He's rather small for his age and plays TSR 1 in the 7 and the 9 wood with senior shafts. He did it my QI40 3 wood with a Ventus 6 blue stiff. Oh, more to that question. Oh, no, doesn't seem to like the rest of that question. No issues with weight or height? So it really depends on how a player just interacts with the club. So for the most part, what you see with juniors, obviously slightly shorter length, tends to be lighter on shaft weight and swing weight, but certain players can use weight in different ways. So it can be just a case of a little bit of extra head weight, a bit more feel for the club could actually work quite well. And that you can actually use that, you know, using that energy and using that force to create a little bit more speed and a bit more ball speed. And then head-wise, they're quite different as well. So the TSR ones tend to knock the flight up a little bit more, add a bit more spin, a bit more launch, whereas the TaylorMade's a bit more punchy in flight. So generally you might be able to get a bit more ball speed, a little bit more punch off the face, which then in essence could lead to a slightly better strike. But some players, they just interact with weight just in different ways. So it's not that lighter is necessarily a good thing for juniors. Some juniors can handle something that's a little bit heavier, but it really just does depend on that player's delivery.
Sorry for the delay, I was just making sure they matched on loft. U505, wasn't it? And
Yeah, 505 and the fly high.
Cool. So I'm going to start off with the 505. So you know, both of them have pretty decent kind of sole width. Actual profiles are quite similar. So yeah, we'll see the difference in colour, but and both I've been having good results out of them. I know what I'm expecting to see. I'm expecting to see a different spin profile. So let's give this one a hit and see what happens. So the 505 is quite a distinct sound off the head. So these are both going to be 22 degrees. So mid-launch, mid-spin, good ball speed, very easy to pick the ball up. It's achieved pretty good launch angles there. So yeah, very comfortable to get away off the, I don't think I'm going to beat that one from a strike point of view. Very comfortable to get away. It's just quite a lot of real estate behind the ball. So some players just don't like the scale of the head. But you know, definitely very user friendly. The Mizuno, they've been quite smart with the color scheme, I think, just to kind of, it looks a little bit neater behind the ball because the head doesn't actually stand out quite as much, so can make it look a little bit neater from a shaping point of view. Slightly thinner top line. This is absolutely going to be a softer sound. Little bit less of a hard note off of it. So I would have picked this to be higher spin, but I've drawn this and faded the 505. But between the two, if I can find the cursor here, you know, efficiency, the 505, if anything, just a little bit faster, not massively surprised about that. Actually, not as dissimilar. I expect to see a bit more of a spin differential. I've seen this head retain a little bit more spin than some heads. But ultimately, both pick the ball up really well. Yeah, I guess with the amount of weight low on the 505, that's where it keeps the flight up. But I would have expected a few hundred rows more spin, and certainly what I've seen in the Bay, that's been the case against the other driving iron heads. The fly high has kept a little bit more flight and spin on than the other heads, but both really forgiving.
I'd definitely say the U505 versus last generation comes out a bit more punchy. So from someone that's used the last 3 generations of them, last version definitely picked it up a little bit more. This one, it definitely feels like it comes out a bit flatter.
Yeah. But, you know, I think there's some good driving irons out this year. I think the 250 is great for someone who's a little higher speed that doesn't want it to flare up quite as much. It's been really good for ball speed. I think that's a nice addition, the Mizuno one. Strixon's always really good. Yeah, good few ones out there.
Yeah, Ping's quite a hot head as well.
Ping, the Ping's strong. If you're looking for something to go forwards on you, then Ping's a great head.
Yeah, definitely keeps it down.
Cannon.
I can't keep that thing up in the air. So good morning from Sunshine Coast, Australia, where we're having some of the UK rain.
You're welcome.
Would increasing driver spin by 500 revs reduce side spin, or are two completely independent?
Two are completely independent, because essentially if you're just reducing or if you're just increasing backspin, it doesn't change the face orientation. So if all else is equal, but you add a bit of loft and you add a bit of spin, then the difference is that it doesn't go as far offline once it's landed. So it doesn't continue going quite as far, which is where, for me, that's where, yes, a bit more spin in principle just kind of helps to hold the flight a little bit, but it's not like 500 revs is going to turn a straight shot into a 20-yard hook if you drop 500 revs of spin. So it just means it doesn't run out quite as far offline. So it will help a fraction, but it doesn't on its own. That's not going to change the side spin element to it.
Yeah, it just keeps it a little bit safer when it lands. But I mean, with the weather that we've had this year, probably not going to make too much of a difference, is it?
No, I mean, over here, if you're having some of our rain, then over here our fairways are playing about twice as wide because they're not running anywhere. So.
Okay. Good evening. What are your thoughts on graphite shafts in putters? Onto in 100 gram. What's difference to steel? Thanks.
So it's an interesting one. There is a lot of a trend towards it at the moment. I think in principle you've got more material, you've got more wall thickness in a graphite shaft at 100 grams than steel. So actually you can make it stiffer, you can lower the torque, you can change the properties of that shaft a little bit more. In reality, we're talking about such small variances that ultimately the player's variables are more than the shaft is going to restrict. So it's one where I think you're going to change the balance of the shaft, you're going to change the way the putter swings. Steel, you tend to keep it a little bit more balanced towards the head. Graphite, the balance point tends to come up a little bit more. So it's going to change your timing more than the shaft is. Graphite shaft isn't going to restrict start that sentence again. Graphite shaft's not going to stop a miss hit coming up short. It's not going to stop an open face, a toe strike opening a little bit and coming out a little weak right for a right-hander. But it could ruin your timing. So for me, a graphite shaft is one of the worst things I can go to because the balance is often higher up the shaft. There are some that have got a bit of a balance point down the bottom now, but yeah, I think it's not a cure-all like a lot of shafts are marketed as, but it does dull the feel down a bit. It dampens vibration and softens the feel down a little bit as well.
Yeah, yeah. I'd say main thing just that little bit of a change in terms of the feel versus what you get with a steel shaft. But like I said, it's such minor changes when it's that small of a stroke and that little speed that goes into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
They look nice though.
Yeah, they do look cool. They do look the part. Please, can you explain the difference for an average golfer between a Mizuno T3 forged wedge and a cast wedge, i.e. a Titleist or a Callaway?
So the main difference, it's got the word forged on it versus cast. Literally that and it'll be dearer to manufacture. But ultimately, if you look at things like the Vokey wedges on the Rockwell scale of hardness, it's a scale of hardness of metals. A Vokey cast wedge is as soft as a Mizuno forged wedge. What you do get, those are different sounds. So the acoustics off the head are a little different, and that is where the feel of a softer material comes out. Yeah. But the ball won't know any difference.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's mostly people just want to play a forged wedge. If they got forged in the irons, it just kind of feels like, okay, this works in one area of the bag, let's just translate it to the rest. Yeah. But to be honest, if I were to test a forged wedge versus cast, I don't think I'd see much of a difference.
Performance-wise, none. It's something that there's a great marketing tool because forged feels softer. There's that sensation of it's a better quality material and therefore I'm going to get more feel out of my short game shots, more control. The reality is that just isn't the case. Even the Vokey tour players are not playing forged wedges. They're playing the same structure of head as we all play. In the WedgeWorks ones, most of them are playing the raw material because they don't want the chrome on the surface. They want to reduce the glare. And they like the softer feel without the chrome. But actually, it doesn't actually do that. It's a nice to have rather than actually being a performance game.
Yeah. Okay. G'day, Simon. I was wrestling a croc in the garage and found my old R7 Limited with the terrible Stop Matrix OZIC 5.5 stiff 60 gram. Took it to the range and pured everything. Modern day equivalent. That's a bit before my time, that one. Bit before my time, that.
Thank you for that. Yeah. It's R7 Limited, yeah. So, realistically, the modern day equivalent is QI4D core. That's your modern day equivalent. The head shaping from TaylorMade is going to be the most similar, but that also gives you the ability to kind of move weight forward and back, which you might not have done with the Limited. But that from the modern day version of that head would be the QI4D core. Yeah, it will be much more forgiving, much better off centre, much better spin retention off centre, much better ball speed retention off centre, much dearer. But that would be the current version. Yeah.
Okay. Hi guys, the best live on YouTube.
Thank you very much.
Why is it exactly when I grip the club lightly and do not think about my connection, the results are so much better? Well, that'll be one for me.
That's definitely one for old psychology Tom over here.
So grip pressure wise is kind of a funny thing, because when you end up getting more and more tension in the body, you tend to grip the club a little bit tighter, and then that can make you almost tend to steer the ball a little bit more because you're not just really in a natural flow. So grip pressure can work different for different players. So some players prefer to grip it a little bit tighter, some are a little bit looser. Tend to do, when I work with players, it's almost gauge what grip pressure you like, and then it's almost something that you just preset before you hit the shot. So it's, okay, I like a 6 out of 10, that's something that I'm going to carry over during the round. But it can make the swing a lot more fluid just because the muscles aren't feeling tense and tight. So then release-wise, it can feel a little bit easier. Timing-wise, can tend to feel a little bit better as well. So gripping it loose, not to the point it's coming out of the hands, can actually really make timing quite easy.
Yeah.
Now, what was the back part of the question? And also help strike. Yeah.
I think some of it also, if your muscles are relaxed, then they're working the most efficient as well. So you keep that elasticity, you keep a bit of flow. That also can help you get full extension to the bottom of the ball. They get tight. If your hands get tight, it goes all the way across here and shortens everything. So you end up, potentially catching it a little bit clean, or actually coming out of posture. If I quick follow on to that last bit, but if I'm relaxed here, then I can stay in posture and drop down into the swing. If I tighten up, then that often happens. You end up standing up out of it because everything locks out. So that's where I think strike can go, but that it's about that fluidity and freedom, and then your club speed, you get that lag on whip, you get a bit of extra snap, and you get better quality of strike as a result as well.
Yeah, 100%. Evening, is it a myth, does choking down on the club change swing weights?
Changes effective swing weight.
Yeah.
Because if you're gripping it down a ½ inch, you're closer to the head, you have an increased head weight to counter that, so it will drop swing weight slightly. A lot of players use it for control, and something that I've always used to take a little bit of distance off. There's a strong argument to say you shouldn't grip down a club, but it's just something that most of us have grown up doing. But yeah, it will change swing weight a little bit, yes.
Yeah, it's funny, since I've been working here and been a lot more aware of swing weight, I've almost noticed that when I grip down on it a little bit more, having a little bit less feel for the club, I tend to flare it a little bit more to the right. So instead of actually gripping down for softer shots, it's just taking a bit of speed out of it now.
Yeah.
But again, it changes player to player, I guess.
Yeah, and like in wedges, gripping down it, you lose a little bit of speed, but actually that drop in swing weight, effective swing weight, actually means the ball doesn't come off quite as hard. So you can help use hands and kind of cut the legs out from under the ball a little bit, but it also, Xander Schauffele at the PGA Championship last year at Quail Hollow had a wedge built at a D0 swing weight rather than say a D4, D5, because he wanted less momentum coming off the club head. So it can actually help for some of the short game shots just to take a bit of sting out. There you go.
There we go. What would be the Ventus equivalent to a graphite design IZ stiff in a fairway wood shaft?
There's only one Ventus, that's got to be the red.
Yeah. Yeah,
IZ's bit of tip response. And the weights are slightly different, but I would say, yeah, the red 7, if it's a IZ 7S or IZ 6S, then it'll be the 6S or 7S of the Ventus red, because you've got to keep for that as much tip response as possible to keep that little bit of kick and a little bit of flight.
Yeah. Where were we? Evening, love the live sessions, well done.
Thank you very much.
Have the G430 irons, which are fine for my skill level at the moment. I do feel I need some better wedges due to the strong. Not sure what to, I assume strong lofts. Not sure what to add for future irons. So I mean, G430s.
In terms of wedges to future-proof the iron selection,
Yeah.
I'm gonna anticipate. Let us know if that's incorrect. We'll answer it based on that, but let us know if it's a different.
Pitching wedge in that set, what does that come to? 43?
Oh, that's probably about 40. Yeah, 43. 40, yeah. I mean, it's one where it's a difficult one actually. Getting a bit of forgiveness in wedges without them. I know the Cleveland, the CBZs now, but they've got quite a particular soul grind. There aren't many forgiving wedges. Cobra have got the snake bite.
Mizuno
X's.
were blending quite well.
Yeah, the T3s and the Mizuno, there's a little bit of perimeter weighting. The sole shapes are nice on those as well. But there's kind of very little outside of the Cleveland and the Cobras have a proper perimeter weight to them. There's not a lot else.
Not really. I mean, especially going from a 430 where it's got quite a bit helped, going to something like a Vokey or like an MG5 that's quite a big jump. Yeah. So it's not a ton of clubs in the middle of the two. But
in the past, the Ping Glides gave a bit more than the 259s do
they're
now.
Not quite as friendly now, are they?
So, yeah, it is a difficult one. I think if you're looking to go into something, we use Ping's range, if you were looking to go into something like an i240 down the line, then that's then where I think the Mizuno wedge, or even the 259s, once you're into those, you're kind of into the more blade style heads anyway. But that's where the T3 Mizunos might blend quite well. If you're staying in something a bit more forgiving, you want to maximise forgiveness, then the Clevelands are good, but they are a little bit bigger and they might be a little clumsy.
Yeah, it would still blend quite well with the 430s though, wouldn't it? So as of right now, that would actually blend quite well. If it's more future-proof and you're looking at a set of irons a couple of years down the line, yeah, Mizuno's might be just a bit of a better blend.
Yeah. Raises a good point though.
Me again, currently playing a Sim 2 Max with a Link M40X white shaft in the 67 gram. Hit it well, but wondering out of curiosity, what would be the equivalent Fujikura or Mitsubishi equivalent?
So it's in the Lanky white, 67 gram, the white Max. So
weight-wise, the Ventus aren't a million miles away from that, are they?
Yeah, I'd say. I mean, the Ventus Blue would be a good alternative in that. I think that's pretty much bang on the same weight. Mitsubishis, they sit either side. I mean, I would say probably.
There's nothing really up at that 67 weight classes.
No, you have to go in the whiteboard in something like an X-Flex that's sort of 64, 65.
Yeah.
The Mitsubishis. And that's going to have that little bit more of a stout profile, but the other Mitsubishis tend to swing a little bit higher balance point. I'm in communication finally with UST about getting those line cues in. Had a bit of a delay getting back from them, but we should be getting those in soon. But I would probably say in the Diamana range, it's a whiteboard.
Yeah, I like that.
But you're going to have to go the stronger end of the flex to get the weight up close to it.
Yeah. Hey guys, I have a neutral path, level angle of attack with driver, but consistently 3 degrees closed face to path throughout the bag. Any swing tips or equipment adjustments to help with start line or to reduce draw spin? Depends on the swing. Depends on the swing and what's causing the face to be 3 degrees closed. So, I mean, there's certain club heads like a Titleist or a Ping where you could go a little bit flatter in terms of the setting, just to try and get the start line a little bit further to the right.
Quantum Max, Triple Diamond, Triple Diamond Max, that's one that they sit a little open.
Yeah. Shaft-wise, depends on if things are actually timing up. So if there's, the timing element, if you're playing something where you almost had a fetch at the club, which is causing it to be closed, it might be just a slightly different shaft profile, which just means everything comes through just that bit more together, so you're not having to use the hands quite as much.
Could be if it's a bit light and you end up overpowering it and flipping it. Yeah. It's one of those, unfortunately, there are several ways that face could be closing. You're obviously doing your job right and delivering the club neutrally, so you're doing your bit, but I would say it's likely that you and the club aren't syncing up, and so you're having to either fetch at it, which is closing the face, or there's not enough to hit against and that's shutting the face down. It sounds like we're hedging our bets saying that, but actually you can get the same both ways. If your swing direction, if your path drops a little inside, and if it's going to err to anything and dropping inside, that's probably on the heavy side. If it can tend to get a little bit out to in, then it's probably a bit light. But it's all probablys, unfortunately. There are lots of, as Tom said, there are lots of routes you could get that pattern. We wouldn't want to commit to something right now without seeing you because we could get it horribly wrong and give you completely the wrong fix. But there are several ways it can happen. But the upside is you're doing your bit and delivering the club neutrally, so your technique's in a solid place.
Okay. Good evening. How many golfers fit into heavy shafts like Dynamite Gold S400s or 80-gram wood shafts? Who fits best into heavy shafts? Thank you for your free content. You're the reason I look forward to Mondays.
Oh, thanks very much. The answer is we don't do them that often anymore.
Strong swingers, very strong swingers.
It's going to be someone who's physically on the stronger side, sort of bigger, someone who pulls hard on the club, needs the weight to hit against. Often tend to find it's someone who's sort of top heavy in terms of you need that mass to pull against, need the mass to drop down into plane to equalize energy in the handle. If you're fast with your hips, then you're unlikely to need that kind of weight.
Yeah. Well, even you look at Matt, he's playing, what, 75 or so grams in his fairway wood, and he's, what's he swing a fairway wood at, like 120 or so?
Yeah.
So even like really, really strong players, well, I feel bad calling them strong, but fast players.
He's still strong. I'm sure he's still strong, lad. Yeah.
Well, fast players don't necessarily have to go quite as heavy as that. So it's almost like I wouldn't say a misconception, but there's this idea before that if you're fast, if you're strong, you need to play something that's overly heavy. Whereas, again, how you generate speed, whether it's more of a snap of the hips, it doesn't necessarily need to go as quite as heavy as like an S400 or an 80-gram wood shaft. Yeah,
it's interesting. I think if it's a relatively aggressive, a strong move, but yeah, it tends to be someone who's got a lot of power, and you're using that weight to equalise the energy going into the handle. Let's say if you create speed fast, might sound like an interesting concept. It's like Justin Thomas. Yes, okay, he's using a heavy shaft, but most amateurs who have that real kind of snap through, heavy just gets out of sync. So, but to go that kind of heavy is now quite rare, I would say.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I do it all that often. I mean, 130-gram iron shafts,
I can't remember the last time.
Pretty rare, to be honest.
Count on one hand in the last year, I think, that I fitted something that heavy.
Yeah, 100%.
Switch these screens back on.
Sounds good. What we got here, when manufacturers list shaft weights, is that raw weights? And is there a formula for how much cutting reduces weight, i.e. 1 inch equals 2 grams?
It's generally, I say it's generally raw uncut, but then if you go on Nippon site, then they say it's a 7-iron trimmed length. So it does vary brand to brand, and this is where, unfortunately, with shafts, it's like there's no standardization for flex, or how they're measuring weight, or how they're measuring torque, or how they're measuring balance point. So, but always look at, there'll be a little bit of small print. If it's anything other than raw weight, there will be a little bit of small print at the bottom of whatever scale or chart where they say, measured as per X scenario. In terms of how much you cut off, James, might be something that you might be better placed than us to, for every half inch. I mean, ultimately, for a half inch off the butt end, you're not taking that much off. Yeah. So it varies, as James was saying. It varies. One, depends what the start weight of the shaft is. If you've got a 45-gram driver shaft, you're probably only cutting off a gram and a bit, a couple of grams. If you're taking a 130-gram steel shaft, you're probably taking 4 or 5 grams off. But it does vary. It varies based on the thickness of the materials at the top end. It varies based on the structure of the shaft itself. Some are kind of back weighted, and therefore there's more material up in the butt end as well. So there is no absolute formula for it, but yeah, so useful. You take it from one of the ends, not the middle. Unfortunately, there's quite a wide variance. Although it's scaled down, I would say you're between 1 and 4 grams for half inch would be, that is within that kind of ballpark, I would say.
Yeah, that would generally be the ballpark that I'd be looking to work within anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. Evening, chaps. I use the stock shaft in my driver. Is there any merit in replacing it to the equivalent aftermarket shaft? Depends if you get on well with your driver. I mean, aftermarket-wise, obviously there's a lot of different options, and it allows you to dial it in a little bit more with weight and sort of more balance point. If you get on well with your driver, not necessarily any merit in changing it, but it wouldn't hurt just to have a bit of a look, just to see if dialing in just a little bit more just gives you slightly better timing, slightly better feel, and then just works out to a couple better numbers. But
yeah, as you said, some of the stock shafts now, and this is to go back to a comment that was made about a Matrix shaft in that R7 Limited. What they're not doing now is what Matrix did back then, was make a really cheap, shitty version of what looks like a great aftermarket shaft and pretending it's quality. What you tend to find now is that the stock shafts are either something that's been made for, being it used to be UST. I think they're now making their own shafts, but it's a shaft that's manufactured for them specifically, or it's an entry-level version of a shaft. The Denali Frost that that a few of them using this year is a very new shaft by Project X, True Temper Project X, that's only just hitting aftermarket, but they've got it out there in volume to the brands to kind of get the name out there and get the model out there. But it's more one of the kind of the lower level ones that they bring in. So they are nowhere near as bad as they used to be, but the tolerances and the material quality is better and the tolerances are tighter on the full fat versions of them that you would find in aftermarket, which in principle means more spin consistency, better performance off center, but just tighter dispersion overall would be the difference that I'd expect to see.
Never heard anyone describe an aftermarket shaft as full fat.
Yeah, but it's a bit like
I know what you mean.
Dark, it's I think a lot of the stock shafts are almost like Ventus.
It's just
the
like a watered
Ventus
down
without
version.
Velocor plus in. It's just not a Ventus. It's based on it, but so there are still a few of them. They're just not as bad a quality as they used to be.
Yeah. Okay. Hi gents, just changed from P770 Modus 130 to Axiom 105 in ZXi and ZXi7 combo. Found strike moved from Morto to centre to slightly low, much better dispersion and less dig. What are the biggest differences you found in these heads? So flight-wise, I definitely say 770s tend to pick it up and spin it a little bit more in comparison to those two. Obviously, you've got the V-sole that comes in the Schritzen, so if you're someone that's almost a bit more down and a bit more into the turf, personally, I find it comes out the other side just a bit easier.
Yep.
So, I mean, I absolutely love the V-soles in what I've got, so when I feel I'm almost a bit more on top of it, it just, turf interaction just feels that bit cleaner.
Yeah, he doesn't deliver much loft.
No, zero loft.
And I think,
spin-wise,
770s are good if you're a picker.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things. But you've made a big change in shaft there, a 20-odd gram change in shaft and a big change in balance point within the shaft. So what's probably happening is you're now able to get the handle lead, create a little bit of a later hit, get more of a ball turf contact versus a bit of a pick and a flip with the heavier shaft is the likely reason you're getting much better contact, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big change as well, isn't it? I mean, sort of more sort of upper to moving it way down the bottom and then knocking 25 grams out of that. Well, depending on the flats, 25 or so grams out of there. That's big difference. Big difference. Evening, gents. From a technical standpoint, which hand should initiate the backswing and which should start the downswing in the golf swing?
Which hand? I'm one more for the coaches, but so I can only tell you from my own, the way I play. I'm very right-handed, so actually for me, I'm not thinking about one side. I'm actually thinking about keeping it. Currently, I'm actually trying to shorten my backswing, so I'm actually keeping it very much body rotation, so it's one piece takeaway rather than I get the club, my hands going that way and the club coming inside. So I'm actually trying almost to sort of deaden as a feel to shorten the length rather than getting overly long. So for me, I'm keeping it as even-sided as possible.
Yeah. It depends if you're like a left-handed player playing right-handed as well, because that can start to come into it if you end up almost pulling a little bit more from your stronger side. So that can dictate things a bit too.
I think to generalise would be, to give you a generalised answer of what the better way is would be wrong because everyone's different and patterns are different. So there's a man walking past who I could ask the question to, which some of you might recognise this chap. He's been on here before.
A couple of times.
Question for you.
Yes.
Where was it? From a technical standpoint, which hand should initiate the backswing and which should start the downswing?
Both hands should start the backswing and both hands should start the downswing because you're holding onto the golf club with both hands.
There you go. I wasn't far off. Thank you very much. You see, cameo appearance, unexpected.
So we were there. Hi gents, great channel. How would you compare the KBS TGI versus the steel fibres?
Ooh, so steel fibres are a more stout feel.
Yeah, and obviously tend to offer a couple heavier weight classes as well with them.
And the TGIs go up to 110. We haven't got the heavier weights in there because of other options that are out there. The structure's different. So the TGIs swing a little lighter, balance point wise.
Yeah, a little bit more of a stout feel from the steel fibres as well. I wouldn't say they play stronger versus their flats, but definitely on
steel
the
fibres. Yeah, I'd say that. Yeah,
a little bit stronger.
Yeah, I'd say pretty stiff to flex.
Yeah.
I think that graphite core, and then with the filament around the outside of the steel, I think they play. You know, I can't remember the last time I ever did an X in them, other than you, because you like the feel of it. But but he's got a lot of speed. But it's one of those that, the 110 and the stiff, I think, plays like an X in any steel shaft of that weight.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember when I first started it, you saying about never really fitting the extra stiff in the steel fibres because it felt a little bit more harsh. I haven't noticed that at all, to be honest. I actually still think it feels quite smooth.
There you go.
Feel interpretation, I
Yeah,
guess.
absolutely. But I think the steel fibres, I've always seen a little bit of a lower spin than some of the other graphite shafts.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. What have we got? Can you hit the ProFly High 26 2-iron full speed? You got to go after this one, haven't you?
I hope my back can deal with it.
So I'll get out of your way for this one. That means
been stood static for half an hour.
That means full speed, 100 miles an hour with this one.
No, I don't know. I came in yesterday and did a bit of practice, and whilst the practice was useful, the practice confirmed that I'm slower than I used to be. Which, now I'm getting older.
You hit it pretty straight, so it's okay.
Hit it pretty straight, yeah, but I want to hit it long. No.
Overrated.
Overrated. The bit that was salient to me was that I couldn't get 3 on the front of the drive. I got 299.7. Mildly disappointing.
Couple more gym sessions, you'll be okay.
Couple more years worth of gym session. Right, let's get this. Right. Things I wouldn't necessarily go absolutely hell for leather at it. I'll hit it. I'll do like a kind of a steady one, and then I'll try and clatter one. I'll probably get about half a mile an hour. So that's a fairly steady one. 94, 95. And there, right, now I've worked up my back isn't going to hurt when I move. I've normally played a little bit heavier shaft-wise than that 98. I'll give it one more so if I can actually strike one at that kind of speed.
Yeah, good.
There we go. That's
good
a proper one. Gritted teeth on that one.
That'll do.
Yeah. So 90 cents. So pick up about 3 miles an hour. Be nice to get to 100. Sadly, only a wood nowadays.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Hi gents, great show, lots of information. I want to upgrade my wedges, currently using the SM8s and interested in getting forged wedges. What's the benefit of forged wedges in terms of feel and performance?
So performance, none.
Feel-wise, slightly nicer sound, but besides that, not a lot.
Yeah, I mean, a forged wedge in principle it may wear a little bit faster, but again, marginal. Most of it is just a slightly different note off the head, therefore it's a slightly duller, you could call sound, so quieter, softer note off the head. But a lot of the brands are now starting to tune the sound to try and get them feeling as soft as possible. The Opus Callaway's are a forged wedge, but they've got a pocket in them which produces a bit of a click. So even that as a forged head still has, it almost sounds, especially the new Platinum, the SP Pluses,
definitely say they almost sound a bit hotter.
Like a cavity back. Yeah.
Definitely
with the
sound
tungsten
hotter
on top of it. It's a really interesting sound. Yeah.
Hi guys, I've gone from about 105 miles an hour clubhead speed to 111 this winter using Swing Speed's trainer. At what point do I need to have a look at the driver? Cheers.
So I would tend to say if you're if you're still got the ball under control, then all's good. You know, 5 or 6 miles an hour, it's a good improvement. In terms of will the shaft work or not work, that won't make the blindest bit of difference, but you might feel like the shaft might feel a bit looser at that speed. Where I was having a little test around yesterday and trying my damnedest to get to 110 club speed, which I couldn't quite do. The only thing it made me wonder is, right, if I'm trying to swing like this, do I need to drop a little bit of weight to facilitate that speed? But if you're able to keep the club face under control and still hit fairways, then ultimately, club's still good.
I mean, personally, when I've put on speed, I've actually ended up going lighter because I end up snapping the hips more. If I go heavy, club ends up behind me, so then I end up fetching it.
Yeah.
So it's just because it's faster doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be heavier, just depending on how you're creating the speed.
I think if you're creating the speed through having done some gym work and got physically stronger, and you're now putting more energy into the club, and you might then need more to hit against, that might be the case if you've done it through getting a lot stronger. But if you're doing it just through moving faster, it might need slightly larger. It might need a slightly lighter swing weight, or it might be that your club's still absolutely fine.
Okay, evening. Can you talk about the KBS dollar taper shafts? Love the feel, but don't know too much about them.
So dollar taper principle being it's a slightly softened step in terms of the prominence of the step onto it, but it's designed around a slightly lower spin design. I mean, it's a shaft that swings.
Doesn't swing overly heavy, but it still feels quite strong.
Yeah, you never really get a counterbalance steel, but it's not a million miles off it. And you know, something like that, the Oban, the CT series is higher balance as well. You know, KBS Tour V aren't wildly dissimilar. I think you get a bit of feedback from the tip section on the dollar taper versus a Tour V. I think it's quite a smooth feeling shaft.
Yeah. I'd say if anything feel wise, I'd say it's probably closer to the Tour versus the Tour V.
Yeah. I think the thing with KBS, there are several shafts that there's quite a lot of overlap, that if one's a good option, then another's quite a good option. So whilst you have a bit of response through the tip, it is a stiffer tip profile than a KBS Tour. It's designed around a little bit of lower spin than a KBS Tour. Little bit of a tighter feel, but there are lots of similarities. Essentially, it's heat treatments and it's slightly different materials, alloys that they use in the shaft to create the slightly different flight profiles. Yeah, if you want something that's stable, that doesn't swing tip heavy, great option.
Nice. What have we got? Played T150 for 2 seasons, tried to change to the I240s. Sole feels too wide for me. Any recommendations to pivot to? Thanks in advance.
It does have a bit more bounce, the 240, doesn't it? Back edge.
It kind of depends on what sort of flight you're going for, because 240s versus 150s tend to chuck it up a little bit more and spin it just a touch more. So if you want almost that narrower sole that you had in that 150, but more the flight of the 240s, something like a T100 is quite a nice place to be in, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a little less ball speed once you get into the 5, 6 and 7. Yeah, because the M13 doesn't pick it up quite as much.
No, that's a bit hotter, isn't it? A bit flatter.
That's a similar, it's a similar head to the T150. Yeah, if you're trying to keep a bit of launch, but so I'm just going to read the question in terms of soles too wide. P770, actually, for something that helps. You might need to weaken the lofts off a little bit, but that, if you're shallower in particular, that picks the ball up really well, really good for ball speed and a narrow sole.
Yeah, Cobra in the Tour wouldn't be the worst shout in the world either. Something like that picked it up quite nicely, but not overly wide in the sole.
Yeah. I think if there are any other left field options that. I don't think so.
No, nothing.
There are some things
really
like maybe a proto concept. The 3 series has a little bit of speed, but it's not a dissimilar loft. Maybe not quite as fast off the face.
Yeah.
But something a bit more niche, Japanese forged.
Yeah, nice little feel to it as well. Hi Tom, I had my fitting with you 2 weeks ago for my irons, top class and much better than Jasper. Who's that?
Or
Steve.
competition.
Yeah, Steve.
How many
Yeah.
likes can they all get from their lives?
No, it was good change for them. Good
Yeah,
change
yeah.
for Steve. Good evening, gents. What are your thoughts on using foam balls for practice? Do you think this hurts feeling ball contact location on the face, therefore hindering training?
Ooh, interesting question.
Never really mess around with that myself.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
if you're in the house, it's definitely, or heading towards the house, it's definitely a good option.
Won't give you a ton of feel for strike.
Yeah.
Definitely won't give you a lot of feel for that.
If it facilitates being able to practice using them, and you're still going to get a picture on the base sort of shot profile that you'd see with a normal golf ball. And if it allows you to do it, then great. It will dull the feedback for sure. But your kind of essential kind of start line and base shot shape indications it's still really useful for.
Over the winter as well, if it gives you a chance to work on a couple technical bits, if you're doing it in the garden, filming your swing, you can actually see that you're making the moves that you're trying to. You're not going to get a ton of feedback, but at least you get the chance to practice it. I
remember once there was like an old kind of, not like solid foam, but lightweight foam that had a plastic core. And I was heading back towards the house and decided that I'd hit driver. And the plastic core came out of the foam, went straight through one of the windows. My mum was on the phone in the living room. She couldn't go mad at me because I was hitting the practice ball. Wasn't allowed to hit driver after that though.
Shock.
Only made a very small hole through it didn't smash the whole window, just a small hole as it punctured through.
That's right. I used to try flop shots in my back garden, and it was no practice balls, real balls, and a lot of them ended up in the neighbour's garden.
Oh, and sort of or you're going to fat one rather than knife it though, aren't you?
I don't know. We used to do it over the garage. You'd really have to get up in the air, but then if you did give it a bit too much, you were over the bunnies and then into the next garden.
Over the bunnies. Yeah. I was fiddling around during COVID in the back garden, and I thinned one with a proper golf ball. I got very lucky that it hit a chair. If it missed the chair, it's taken out the window. And that's age 40 something, not 12. So yeah, I'd have been in big trouble.
In COVID, I built a little range in my back garden. So I moved back in with my parents just during COVID. Put like some netting over the back of a bush and ended up just denting the bush just because it was in the same spot each time. So I wasn't allowed to do it anymore.
Anyway, we digress.
Yes.
See all these memories that just a foam golf ball brings up.
Evening, gents. If I had a Titleist TSR2 that was 43 inches from ends to grip, from end of grip to the end of adapter, what's the playing length with the head on? Thanks.
That is a good question. James thinks 44 3/4. I just said it's broadly speaking, but I guess depending on the head, 1.5 to 2 inches from top of adapter down to kind of measured length. Out of interest. Let's just see. This is a TSR3, but let's see. So if we're taking from top of the adapter, so we're going that much. So that's actually a reasonable bit. Top of adapter to grounding point on the TSR3 is about 2.5 inches. So TSR2 will be similar, might be a hair less, but be pretty similar. So if it's, say, 43 inches.
Yeah, 43 inches.
To the top of the adapter to the top of the grip, then you could be over 45 inches there.
Okay. Hi guys, what are your thoughts on the TSR slider? I assume that means the weight in the back on the 3?
Okay, yeah, so it's...
A pain?
Yeah, they were fiddly.
Yeah. A pain to fit with.
To get in and out and swap around with the hooks on the back. It moves CG slightly, and it's based around your strike point. So if you're a heel striker, you can move the weight into the heel. It doesn't draw bias it, but it lessens the gearing on a heel strike, and vice versa on the toe. But you're not creating a draw and a fade biased head. You're just moving the CG, which mitigates strike a little bit.
Yeah, it can tend to make it swing a little bit different as well. So for me, I'm a bit more of a toe side striker. So then ended up moving the weight to T1, and it just found it didn't quite swing and just flow quite as well. So even though, yes, it was better on the strike.
The furthest toe position.
Yeah. It definitely helped a little bit with the strike, but it just didn't quite move the way that I would want it to. So that's something that can almost dictate a little bit as well.
Right, 1 minute left. Let's fly through as many as we can.
And then Yes, you're right. Strong. Okay. Yes, you are right. Strong loft problem. I have a 45 to 54 degree, so too many wedges, and then they feel too one-dimensional and need a better prep for better irons.
Okay.
Assume that was in relation to the question.
That was the forgiving. Oh, I think the G.
Oh, G430 question.
G430 question.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. Okay. Is it common for people to have a set gap wedge at 50 degree and then a specialty wedge at 52? I find I have a slightly larger gap there than anything else.
I wouldn't generally go that close.
Depends on the tolerance. It might be that one's come out a little bit stronger. So if you're 50 degree in the set wedge has come out to maybe a 49, 49 and a half, or even a little bit stronger than that, then the 52 can blend wellish.
Come a degree weak as well on a lot of the wedges,
Yeah, so it can kind of make sense, but it'd be a good idea to actually just check the loft and lies just to make sure those are actually the gaps.
2 degrees, I'd say, isn't enough of a gap. You should only see 7 or 8 yards gap there. But if the set gap wedge has a bit of pop to it, then it's going to play a little stronger, and it might make the gap all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do golf balls wear out when I play indoors and don't lose them? If so, what are the signs? Probably hit 10,000 shots with my current.
Yes. So let me grab a knackered one. You're going to see. What are the signs? Let's see if I can find a really tired one. We don't keep them out very much. There's a. So you've got fresh ball there. You can see the paint's nice and even. The numbers are still on the ball. A well-used one here. So you can see that it starts to kind of flake the outer cover in the paint. You lose some of the markings on there. And if you're hitting wedges and things, then they can grip into the cover. And so what happens is, ultimately, the ball will just crack over time. You will lose a little bit of performance off of it. But depending on what the ball type is, chances are it will break before you see noticeable differences, but it will affect consistency of spin numbers and ball speed, I would say, if you're hitting that many shots, for sure.
10,000 hits out of one ball, that's quite impressive.
10,000 a lot, yeah. If you're getting that many out of it, then that is good, and the balls are lasting a long time. Right? Where are we?
Just these here.
Okay, we'll get 2 or 3 more and then we'll end it.
What's the difference between a Dynamic Gold 115 mid and a Modus 120? So mid, obviously a lot more tip heavy. Weight-wise?
A little more so, yeah. Weight-wise, not wildly different, but the mid's more tip soft. The Modus 120 is handle soft, tip stiff, and then the Dynamic Gold mid is sort of midsection stable, and then kick in the tip.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Pros are all moving to mallets, and the Spider is dominating. Should we all be playing mallets? I find I have better speed control with the blades, but a little bit less face control.
I think the pros are moving to mallets because there is a bit of a trend on it, but ultimately what they're seeing is off-centre strike ball speed is maintained a little bit better, so pace control. But actually you can get more deflection on an off-centre strike, which can start it more offline. The pros aren't misstriking their putts, so then they don't have that kind of issue. So the pace control consistency off it, and maybe some alignment aids as well, is probably where they're seeing a gain. Potentially designs where it just minimises toe hang and rotation as well. But it is a bit of a, actually start line can often be better out of a blade, but you lose more performance off centre. So if you're striking the putter well, then the blade's still perfectly functional. But it's the pace control, which is where the pros are going to them for in particular.
Nice.
Right, we'll do one more.
My 3-wood is a Fujikura Pro 7 stiff in a Cobra Dart Speed Adapt LS. My strike location is always high heel. What are some ways I can fit strike location for high heel?
Stand slightly further away would be one of them. Maybe have a look at what's the length and the swing weight of it. If it's let me see, high heel. Well, it can be light or heavy, but I think just make sure it's not a kind of a wild. If you've got it shorter than standard and it's a very light swing weight, then you're probably losing the head. But actually, I certainly heel side, you're just probably standing a little bit close.
Yeah, nice little simple one, that.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
We have run over a bit, and I know there are a couple still on there, but thank you so much for all the questions. Thank you so much for coming in on your day off.
No worries.
It's greatly appreciated. So we'll get you back on another one in a while, but it won't be too soon because we'll get him in on his day off again. Who's your pick for the players?
I like Oberg.
Okay, I'll go Morikawa. There we go. Pick those out. Hope you guys have a great week. Hope the weather stays being improved. So into the main bit of the season now. So very, very exciting. 4 and a bit weeks till one of us heads off to the States. Major championship season coming. So I hope you starting to get some golf going. Thanks so much for joining us. Check out all the other content as well. And if you're not subscribed, it's free. Get on there and you get all the alerts when the content's coming out as well. So thanks for watching. Thanks for coming in. We'll see you next week.